everybody, Donna here. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome all ye artists and oracles from around the world. So lovely to have you here. I have already lit my candle and created sacred space here in my office this evening so I could chat with all of you. And this is take 2, and let's hope this is take number, the end, final. I'm gonna roll with it this time. So thanks for joining me, and thank you all for last week. You know, I put up a video last week. I'd been away for, I don't know, quite a while, several months, and I jumped back in the saddle and posted a video that was kind of hard to do, but kind of wonderful for me because I was super passionate about it, and I'm really glad I did it, and it was lovely to have some feedback. So thanks to all of you. You can check that out. It was a VR to Benaba Wen, to her most recent post from last week. So tonight, I thought I would talk about why I started this channel. It's been just over a year, and I realized this past week that I never really done a proper introduction. I've known that for a while, on and off, and I kept meaning to do it, and I thought, well, this is a good time to do it because in my last video I noticed myself talking a lot about, you know, the intentions that I hold, why I do this, that I'm always trying to come from a really you know, a good place to be of service, to offer good things to the community, and to share. So without further ado, I have my little handy dandy list here, and I will just go through these, and I'll probably, you know, riff and ramble a little bit, and I'm gonna shuffle some cards, show you some cards too, so you're not just staring at me the whole time, because I know we're here for the cards, people. I get it. I come to Tarot Tube for the cards too, so I want to give you lovely things to look at. And so I have pulled, I'm going to start with the wonderful, amazing Shining Tribe. I love this deck. I just have to say, let's just start right there. Let's start with the deck, okay? When did I get this? Probably 2 years ago. Probably 2 years ago. Didn't work with it a lot. Like, I knew I loved it, and yet it's kind of a different system. It's very much RWS based. Let me show you the book. I have a book right here. This is completely Rachel's deck, our beloved Rachel Pollock, who recently left the planet. So missing her. So just give a little tribute here now. This is a wonderful deck. She drew all the artwork herself. It's a brilliant book, and I love the colors. I love everything about this deck. Okay, can I just say, this is like top of the list currently. I'm really falling in love with this deck. I've loved it since I got it, and yet it took me a little time. I kept kind of putting it aside, and I don't know what I was feeling. I was overwhelmed with various decks coming in, and studies, and taking a class with Sadhana, which was brilliant. And but now I feel like it's the time for this deck for me. It's totally the time. So anyway, a little aside about that. So this is what I'm going to pull from and show you guys. How am I going to do this? I'm going to go like this. I'm going to be working two-handed plus with the lists, and I'm going to try to stand on my head and keep the glare down and use my glasses when I need them, and entertain you as well as say interesting things. Okay, here we go. So first on my list, I started this channel because I wanted to give back to the Tarot Tube community. Not just Tarot Tube, but to YouTube, because I am a big fan of YouTube. I think YouTube is a brilliant thing. I watch mostly YouTube. I don't watch television anymore. We don't really have regular television anymore. We got rid of it because we're never watching it. I spend a lot of time on YouTube. It's a great place to go for whatever it is you're interested in, want to learn about. it sparks my creativity in so many ways. And so that's why. That's reason number one. Like, okay, time to give back. You've been partaking of YouTube for quite some time now. Let's give back. So then number two was, okay, yeah, but what? You know, like I want to give back something interesting, of value. So because I was spending a lot of time in Tarot Chublandia, excuse me, I have a flying card. I must pick it up. We have a jumper, people. We have a jumper. Let's see who has, ooh, card number 20, the Awakening, has jumped and fled below the surface and now come back, the Awakening, which is Judgment, card number 20, major. So yeah, I began to think about, okay, well, what are you gonna talk about? You don't want to just come on and like do the same old or be boring. Who wants to be boring? Nobody wants to be boring. So I began to think, like, you know, what I am really interested in terms of tarot and oracle is talking more about artists and oracles. You know, how the process of creating decks, what's that all about, and how does that intersect with those of us who identify as oracles, people who divine, people who look to cards for guidance, regular, daily spiritual guidance. So I began to ponder all that, and then I thought, artists and oracles, I like that title. So that's where that all came from. Yeah, and I wanted to talk more about cultural things related to tarot and oracle cards. I wanted to bring in my love of the social sciences as well as my love of the arts. And so that was reason number two. And then also when I began to think about more, I thought, you know, it's going to be fun because I need more of a creative outlet. You know, I have a theater background. I'm a theater girl. I like to talk. I love comedy, and but I like to talk about deep things too. So I thought this is going to really it's going to fulfill that role. I'm not really performing much these days, and I thought this is what I need. This is what I really need. I'm missing it. So that was reason number three. And then what else was I thinking? I also thought it would be good for me personally to help me get back to teaching. So I was teaching a lot of spiritual workshops, and I self-published a book called Collage Quest, and it's a method that I developed for working with collage as a spiritual and shamanic process, to really dive deep and work with yourself on a soul level. And so I thought this will be good. I can weave all of that in. I can share that with people. I can talk about how I've created collage oracle cards myself. So that was another reason for me. And then what else did I think of? Squinting. She's squinting. Put your glasses on so you can see properly. Okay. Creative play. Yeah, I wanted a place and a time in my regular schedule for creative play that I could share with people. I'm a big proponent of us really claiming the need for creativity in our regular lives as adults, right? It's so much, it's like, well, we know it's so important that our children play as they grow and develop, right? And we know that that's a big part of what kids need to do, right, when they're small. And then, I don't know, something happens. Like there's more of it around now. I mean, you see articles, you hear people talking about, play, oh, play is so important and all that. But it always, I don't know. It's a funny topic, right? Like for adults, it can be, what do I want to say about this? Like, it's so funny because it's the topic of play, right? So it should be play, it should be fun, it should be light, and yet I feel like it's not taken seriously enough. It's not taken seriously enough how important it is for adults to play, because the world just keeps becoming more and more serious and stressful and dire in so many ways, right? It's that great dilemma of like, how to be a responsible adult and juggle everything and stay healthy and stay well informed and, be a good citizen and all these things, and yet have some fun, right? Have time for fun. But don't be like a big kid all the time. God forbid, to be a big kid. I have this wonderful quote running through my mind by a beloved dear friend who's no longer with us, Joe Gilmore, but he always used to say, it was a prayer, he was my minister, and he would say, teach us to be childlike, but save us from being childish. Teach us to be childlike, but save us from being childish. I love that. I think of that so often, and I think in so many ways, that's what many of us are trying to do as adults. We know that there's so much value in being childlike, in staying young at heart, in being creative, in interacting with the arts in every way, whether it's literature, whether it's theater, whether it's visual arts, dance, poetry, right? It just brings so much to our lives. It's so important to the human experience. And yet, if we are people that don't identify as artists, it always seems to me like there's this great fear of being childish, right? Being childish with our pursuits. And, in fact, yeah, that's the great balance, right? That is the great balance, even with tarot. Like, these are wonderful, wonderful things. All these beautiful decks that are coming out all the time, all these amazing artists, right? It seems like every day there's a new deck that you're like, oh, I need that deck. I want that deck. That deck will help me. I want to support that artist, right? And then, the reality of like, well, you can't have every deck that comes out, and how many decks is enough, right? All of that kind of thing. And then once you, if you become a collector, which is totally fun and cool, and I definitely am a collector of decks now, there's always that little kind of thing about like, well, what am I doing with all these decks? Like, can I ever use all these decks? Like, why do I have them? Am I ever going to use all these decks? And so I'm just going to touch on this topic briefly, but this is like there's a whole definitely video and maybe a couple of videos of a topic that I want to explore. And it's just run through my mind for months now that the whole idea of, these cards, they are brilliant. They are powerful. To me, Oracle decks, tarot decks, they are tools. This is a tool for me. When I choose a deck and I let it come into my life, bring it into my home, let its energy come into my sacred space, it has to meet certain requirements for me. And those requirements can vary, and that's not the point of it. I'm not going to get into that now. But, there is a certain little checklist. Some of it's intuitive, but some of it's very conscious in my mind before I will even consider a deck. Does it meet those requirements? Because, for me, this is a tool. It's not a toy. And I'm trying to be really mindful about that these days because I catch myself wanting too many of these. because they're beautiful, they're colorful, they're artistic, they're creative, and I'm an artist, and I love that, and I love to support other artists. But I have to remind myself, these are not toys. It's not just a collection. It's not like, these are sacred tools. So let me know if you guys are interested in that topic, because I really want to get into that. It could be a little touchy, I know. I want to do it right, and I want to do it with respect, but I'm looking for anybody who wants to talk about that, because I really think that's important. Anyway, so that was a big part of it. That was a big part of me starting my channel. Okay, so that was number 5. We're doing pretty well. Maybe this won't be a 50-minute video this week. Wouldn't that be nice? Yes, it would. Okay, number 6. I wanted to meet new people. For sure, that was a big part of it. You know, I was watching a lot of people on TarotTube, and I was like, gosh, these people are fun. These people are cool. Like, I want to meet new people. So that's one of my reasons. And I was hoping to make some friends too, for sure. And I bet that's why a lot of people get into it. You know, it's another way to have community. It's not the same as in-person community, right? It's not a replacement for that. This is 2D, not 3. This is 3D, not 2. Is that? Wait, which is what? This is 2D. 3D is when we're in person, right? Okay, yeah, no. I'm in my right brain. I can't do. Anyway, but that was something we talked about last week, because Benabelle brought that up in her video. So anyway, it is another way to build some community, but it is online community. It's not the same as being in person and being in someone's energy field. That's what I meant to say last week, to add to. You know, that's why we need to be mindful of this, because as great as this is, we make videos, even when people do lives. I love when tarot tubers do lives. It's fun. I've done a couple. It's still not the same thing as like everybody being in a big room together, whether it's a workshop or a play shop or whatever it, you know, it's not the same thing. And you know why? Because we're not in each other's actual energy field. There's always a difference when we are hiding behind these cameras and we are separated by miles and continents and states and provinces and all that good thing. Anyway, but it is still a way to meet people, make new friends, and build community. So that's why I jumped on board. That was number 6. Number 7, I wanted to create a place where I could share my stories. I'm a great lover of stories, as in the oral tradition of telling stories, because I grew up with a grandfather who loved to tell the family stories, the local lore, people around my little town. I grew up in a really little town, and a lot of people, my people on both my mother's and my father's side, had lived in that town for 3 generations before I came along. In that same little town, lived and died, most of them right there. And so there was this sense of, you know, just being interwoven, and, you know, even if you weren't related to people, you basically were, because, you know, your grandparents knew their parents and watched their children grow up. And so there was always all these stories. And I wished I had appreciated them more when I was a child. Honestly, I don't think I appreciated them very much at all. And I just thought, why is he telling that story again? You know? But now that I am older and wiser, I realize the value of stories. I have been so lucky to have different teachers, mostly spiritual teachers over the years, who taught through sharing stories, personal stories. For me, personal stories always resonate the most. I learn best that way, when someone is really, you know, they may be teaching me a concept, but when they tell me a story from their actual life that illustrates that, then it comes alive, and then you really get it, and it kind of locks in. It's easier to remember. So, stories. If you're here for stories, stick around. I'm going to be telling some stories. Yeah. Because, you know, think about it. over the centuries, you know, that's what kept families, tribes, nations together, the sharing of the stories. So many different cultures, there were, you know, the most important teachings were passed on through an oral tradition. So we don't want to lose that, because there's great value in story. And in many ways, you know, that's what our cards are, right? They're these beautiful, compact little stories, especially this deck. Look at this. It's like a whole little world, a whole little story right here. And then for decks that come with, you know, full guidebooks, then you get all this information about the artist and creator's version of each card, how they see this card, how they've reinterpreted it. So much value in that. So stories. And then last but not least, for me, coming and sharing here with you, it's a way for me to, it's continuing oracular education for me, because I'm a big proponent of continuing education. I identify as a perpetual student ever since 1990, when my beloved college professor, Dr. Charles Klein, said to me, "Oh, honey, aren't you just a perpetual student?" And I thought, wow, that might be one of the nicest things anyone's ever said to me. So may this be a space for continuing oracular education, where I learn and share, and I learn with you and share with you, and likewise, you know, it just goes round and round. I'm looking forward to learning from all of you. So there's my intentions for Artists and Oracles. And as I keep saying, I'm going to start interviewing people. I have a list in mind, and I'm going to be contacting people, because I just want to have some lovely organic, you know, maybe even lives, do some lives, just conversations with people, where I kind of interview you and ask you, you know, questions about what is it to be an artist? What is it to be an oracle? What does that mean to you? How do the two intersect? And so I'm looking forward to getting those going. So thanks, you guys. Thanks for joining me, and I will see you again soon. Be well. Take care.